Gallifrey to the Gaslamp District. It's a debate which has raged through space and time. Who's the best Doctor Who? It's a question we're going to answer on this panel presented by San Diego WhoCon. I'm your moderator, CNN contributor Sandro Monetti, and with me to discuss and debate the great Time Lords is a panel of expert and opinionated Whovians. Let's meet them now.
River Alexandra Song.
Julie O'Malley.
Kristi Schoeman. Karen Glover.
Johny Dyer V.
Now, you'd think that we would be discussing the 13 established TV Doctors, but as the most recently aired episode, season finale, The Timeless Children, showed us, turns out there are a whole bunch more Doctors we never knew about. That controversial episode has really divided opinion, to say the least. What did the panel think about the way the whole history of the Doctor was rewritten in this big change of mythology? River, why didn't you lead us off?
I did not like this because it turned the Gallifreyans into kidnappers and child abusers, and I don't think that's what Doctor Who is about.
You don't think Doctor Who's the place for child abuse? Yes, possibly so. Good point. What did you reckon, John?
Well, while I did like the idea of an older black female doctor among these new ones, I thought the whole contrivance was plot desperation and just, of course, messing with canon.
Take it away, Julie.
I feel exactly that it was plot desperation, that they had written themselves into a corner and they didn't know where to go, and so they just came up with this outlandish story. I think the fallout that they're not expecting is the child abuse part, though. I don't think you thought of that.
Wow. Karen?
I did not like it at all. Basically, we waited 50 years, or a little over 50 years, to find out who the Doctor is, and then all they came up with was a lost child, and that was taken to Gallifrey. It was experimented on, and to create Time Lords. Where's their backstories? Where else did this child come from? Now there's like hundreds of Doctors.
well, I told you they were an opinionated panel. Kristi, are you going to be the lone voice who loved the Timeless Child?
No, I just liked the episode so bad. It put so many holes into the Whoverse canon, from William Hartnell being the one where the chameleon circuit gets stuck in the blue box form, to the birth of the Time Lords, and it would have made more sense actually if it was the Master that was the Timeless Child than the Doctor. But hey, let's start it off with child abuse.
Wow. Okay, so I think our panel was unanimous on that point, but will they agree on the question before us today? Who's the best Doctor Who? We'll be going through the Doctors one by one and getting their opinions. Will they agree with yours? And at the end of the panel, I will be revealing the result of the public vote. I'm the host of the podcast, Who's the Best Doctor Who, which has featured guests from the world of Doctor Who, and the listeners have voted for their choice. So at the end, you'll find out who the public think. Will it agree with your choice? So let's go through them one by one. Let's start off with the original. And was he the best? You might say William Hartnell. John, why don't you start us off?
Absolutely the best, because he set the template. He's a wonderful actor. He didn't play down, even though he, was hired to do a children's show, and he grew with it. And I love his sass.
Karen.
I guess not that's a fan.
The sigh gave it away. Yes.
No, I think he looks like a wizard. He's creepy looking. I did not like the character. But I did, however, like when they brought, it wasn't him though, it was, I forget who played him, but when they brought back the first Doctor during the regeneration of 12.
David Bradley.
Yes, I did like the character then.
Right, okay, so not William Hartnell's portrayal. No. Wow. Julie.
I loved him. I loved him because he started the whole thing off. I think he had kind of a slow start because nobody knew what Doctor Who was going to be like. Nobody had ever done anything like that before. So he had to invent the original character from his heart and from his head and from the script. And for any actor, that would be really difficult. But because he was such a consummate professional, he did a bang-up job, and he was a good choice for the First Doctor.
Kristi.
He was very classy, and he had to appeal to both adults and kids. And he was very specific as to knowing how to drive the TARDIS. He wanted to know what switch did what, and he knew that everybody would know that he was hitting the wrong button in the next episode if he didn't get it right.
And River, what did you think of your first husband?
I liked my first husband, although I don't think we would have had much fun. He was a little bit strict, but he was charming and he had a twinkle in his eye.
You know, I recently watched the very first episode, An Unearthly Child, again on BritBox, and what a perfect pilot. It really establishes everything that was to come afterwards. Well, until the Timeless Children messed it all up, of course, you know, but in terms of establishing this adventure in space and time we love so much, it was great. Now, it's always difficult to follow someone who has originated a character, but the role fell to Patrick Troughton as Doctor number 2. River, what did you think of Patrick Troughton as the Time Lord?
I like Patrick Troughton. He's funny, he's fun, he's a very, very amazing actor. And if you see Enemy of the World, that pulls it all together and he just really knocks it out of the park.
Kristi, your opinion of Doctor number 2.
I thought he did an amazing job. He was blind as a bat, and he did it without his glasses. So if you watch him now, he did a lot of walking into things.
Yeah.
Especially the TARDIS console. Yeah, he hit that a few times. But he did an amazing job and was the first to actually wear a flashy outfit, too.
So well, I'm learning a lot today. So all this confusion about, now Jamie, you know, it was all about finding his way around the set rather than finding his way around the script. That was fascinating. Julie, what about Doctor number 2 for you?
I agree. I think that actually explains a lot about his performance that I didn't personally know either. I thought he was a funny, quirky, really seriously energetic Doctor. He had very big shoes to fill, so he was a lot of fun, and I think he did a really good job.
Karen, are you a fan of Doctor number 2?
Actually, I kind of am.
Oh.
A little bit. He was better than the first. I thought he was more stylish. I liked his hair. He had that bowl cut, black hair that, you know, looked like they just stuck a bowl on his head and chopped it around. I also thought he was influential and he had a very good, fun personality.
Talking of people with fun personalities, John, what did you think of Patrick Troughton?
While I acknowledge he's a wonderful actor and he did fill some big shoes, my shallow kind of visceral reaction every time I see him is I go to Mo from the Three Stooges, and it just takes me out of the whole thing. And I know there's even a story of why he wore the wig to look like the Beatles, but it's just a visual thing that jars me every time.
Well, it's interesting that a lot of the Doctors who came later, many of them have incorporated elements from Patrick Troughton's performance. But apparently, when he prepared the character, he just looked at Three Stooges footage, you know, and used that inspiration. We're learning so much on Comic-Con at home, aren't we? It's who's the best Doctor Who. And next, we are going to discuss Doctor number 3, Jon Pertwee. Julie, why don't you lead us off with Jon Pertwee and Doctor number 3?
Actually, I think he really actually brought home the idea that the Doctor is an alien. Mm-hmm. It was just in his mannerisms and how he looked, and he really made me realize, oh yeah, he's not human, is he? and I really like that.
John, was he human or alien to you?
Well, I mean, he was an elegant fellow with his tartan plaid with the giant collar and his fancy 1920s car. So to me, it's almost a completely different characterization because almost more like a would-be James Bond approach.
Karen, did you like the 007 approach to the TARDIS?
I did. But to me, he looked more like he dressed like Dracula. So with, you know, the black with the red inside, and he was really tall. So, but he was sarcastic, and he had that James Bond feel. So I kind of liked him.
Kristi, was he more James Bond or Dracula to you?
Not at all. He was in a smoking jacket, but I love John Pertwee as the Doctor. He's my Doctor. He was my first Doctor, and he's my favorite.
Oh,
Still,
right. Mm-hmm.
He was really into it. He was stuck on Earth, and yet he treated his companions like a father, and made sure that they were okay. And he had a lot of action, and he did the Aikido first. And he was amazing as the Doctor.
Now, hang on. I just see River rolling her eyes. You don't see him as a fatherly figure and an expert in martial arts?
No, I do not see him as a fatherly figure. I see him as an overbearing, I'm the man and I'm right. And I think he did that to both Liz Shaw and to Joe Grant. And a little bit to Sarah Jane, although Sarah Jane had a little more oomph to her. And his Aikido sucks.
Wow. Well, we're dividing opinion here on who's the best Doctor Who on Comic-Con at Home. Now, I just was watching The Green Death again recently, and those final moments when John Pertwee's Doctor, sees Joe Grant disappearing out of his life. Oh, I cried. Very, very emotional moment. Now, here in the United States, where all of us live, Tom Baker is very much seen as the most iconic Doctor. He was Doctor number 4, but was he the best? Let's start with you, Kristi. What's your appreciation or criticism of Tom Baker as the Doctor?
I would have to say he's my least favorite, because you can actually see his performance that he hated working with K9 and Adric. And he actually fell in love with Lalla Ward as Romana too. And you can see that on his performance too. And near the end, he was like getting frustrated with the producers. You can kind of see like, another time I have to go in and act goofy. And he was really arrogant and rude to Leela. And I don't know. He just had the wrong personality for me.
Yeah, there's so much we could follow up on what you said there. But when I was watching his episodes again, I noticed he doesn't make eye contact with Matthew Waterhouse, who played Adric in a lot of the scenes. That's a very dismissive thing for one actor to do to another. So yeah, I noticed some of that too. But River, surely Kristi is being too harsh on the icon that is Tom Baker, no?
Well, she may be, but it's her opinion. He's my Doctor. I love him. He's the first Doctor I saw. He's the most alien Doctor I've ever seen. Well, maybe the most alien. And I really thought that he teased his companions more. And after 7 years, I think he was just getting tired.
Yeah, it was time for him to go. It was
really time for him to leave.
It's more a case of I do want to go rather than I don't want to go.
Yeah,
in
right.
This case, Julie, go ahead.
He was my first Doctor too, because I was introduced to Doctor Who in the United States, which means that you're on a little tiny TV and trying to get UHF with the rabbit ears. I loved his quirkiness, and I loved his energy, and he had so much humor, and he was just so much fun to watch, especially as a child. To me, he really was the first personification that really stuck with me. He's not my favorite Doctor, but I really did enjoy him.
John, if Tom Baker's Doctor offered you a jelly baby, what would you say in response?
Well, I would be polite and say thank you. He's definitely a larger-than-life performer, as well as his characterization, very believable as an alien. And, when my husband and I would cosplay, I'd be 12, he'd be 4. Invariably at cons, people walk up to him and go, "You were my Doctor." So, there's no denying what a huge footprint he left with his characterization.
Karen, did Tom Baker's Doctor have a big impact on your life, and how do you reflect on his legacy?
He did not have an impact on my life.
Wow,
but he is an iconic Doctor. He is, when I got into Doctor Who, I didn't really know a lot of the other Doctors, like the classic Doctors, but he was the one Doctor that I knew of. with the long scarf, the cool hair. He had that, nose that, like there was so many different things that he had that you could, oh, I know that doctor. That's, that's the Fourth Doctor. So I think he will always be the iconic Doctor. And I always think he got into that role and he became the Doctor.
Yes, and in the 50th anniversary special, when he appeared as the caretaker, what a special moment that was in Who history. Well, my doctor was Peter Davison, Doctor number 5, bringing much more of a fresh-faced innocence to the part. Julie, let's start with you. What's your opinion of Doctor number 5?
Well, I have to tell you from the get-go, he is my least favorite Doctor. Yeah, and I know that's going to be really controversial. I like Peter Davison as an actor. I loved him as a veterinarian. All the Creatures Great and Small was such a fun show for me. I did not like him as the Doctor. It's like a veterinarian trying to be a doctor. I didn't think he really encompassed the character as well as any of the other Doctors did.
It's interesting because unlike some of the other Doctors, he came to the part with baggage, being associated, especially in Britain, with another iconic role as Vet Tristan Farnan, who, from my memory, seemed to spend every episode of that vet series sticking his hand up a cow's backside. Not for fun, just looking sort of what was up there and trying to save the save the cows. John, was his performance as the Doctor the equivalent of sticking his hand up a cow's backside, or was there more to it than that?
Well, I mean, think about it. You can't do that with the Dalek. It wouldn't work. But I feel like I consider him the preppy Doctor, and perfectly pleasant, but he, of all of them, seems the most human of characterizations. So maybe somewhat bland. There's a whole episode where they have him playing cricket, and you can tell he really knows how to play cricket, and they work that into the plot.
Wow. Kristi.
He had to follow the longest running Doctors, so he met the challenge and had to deal with also some of the most annoying companions with Tegan and Adric together. Yeah, and plus the first death of one of his traveling companions, Adric. He lost one, and here was a Doctor having to deal with a death among his little family that he traveled with. So I thought he did an amazing job.
Well, thank you for restoring the balance there. Which way will Karen tip the balance? Your opinion on Doctor number 5, Peter Davison, Karen?
He was okay.
Wow.
He was okay, just okay. He was mature and he was laid back. I did, watch one of the episodes where he was playing that, where he had the stick and he was hitting the ball and then he pulls out his celery. I was like, what? But
well, thank you for that in-depth analysis there.
He had his own way of becoming the Doctor, and after, like Kristi said, all those years, he had big shoes to fill, so it was hard.
And as an Englishman, I think I should point out at this point, the stick is known as a cricket bat. But,
okay, a cricket bat.
Sorry, not. River, did you like the way he hit a 6 through silly mid-off?
I actually did, and I know the episode that you're talking about with the cricket game. I actually think that he's gotten better with the Big Finish audios because he seems to have grown into the part. And I thought maybe he was just a little too young for it, and it wasn't his thing yet. But I know he is some person's favorite Doctor. Not yours, but someone else.
And yes, and he and the other Doctors are so fantastic on the Big Finish audios, which kept Doctor Who alive when it was off screen and continues to help it thriving now. They've certainly done a good service for Doctor number 6, Colin Baker, who many would argue was underserved, perhaps underappreciated, or not. Let's see. Well, let's start with our panelist who is cosplaying as Doctor number 6. Kristi, what do you think of Colin Baker's performance in the role?
I think he had a really hard obstacle to deal with. He had 2 producers, one pro and one against him. And when he got hired, the one producer didn't want him. And so he thought he'd make life terribly uncomfortable for him and give him a outfit that often gets mistaken to be Ronald McDonald. And he played it cranky, like the script was written, and he was not very well liked because of it. He started off by even trying to kill one of his companions, Perry. And he
River enjoyed that
dealt
episode.
with what he was given,
Yes.
you know. So hey, he did a really good job, and I think if you watch him now in back episodes, he really did a really good job.
3 eyes in one sentence makes you sound a very impertinent young lady. Ah! So, what a memory. River, what was it like being married to husband number 6?
He's a flirt, and he's absolutely darling. And I really like Colin Baker. He's just a real sweetheart, and met him a couple of times. And I like his doctor. I think, you know, Perry, he could have left, but yeah, but I like him.
Yes. Maybe you'll
Perry, you're off.
Maybe you'll see us next year for who's the best Doctor Who companion. I don't think Perry will be getting River's vote.
Neither will Adric.
Or Adric. And he won't be getting Tom Baker's vote. Karen, Doctor number 6, Colin Baker. What do you think?
I think he was an underrated doctor. He was, to me, I like his arrogance, and he was a little standoffish at times, but he had a really crazy style. And if you had to wear that outfit, I would think I would want to be arrogant and crazy too.
Julie, did the outfit impede the performance, or did it enhance it in your view?
Actually both. I think the outfit was kind of distracting, and it depended on the situation in the scene. But the one thing I do like about Colin Baker was his crankiness. I mean, imagine, I loved that about him, because he's been around. Here's a character that has been through all of these iterations and all of these worlds and all of these. Yeah, he's tired and he's cranky, and I can understand that. And Colin Baker and I also
John, I don't know if you're as tired and cranky as Julie, but what did you think of his performance?
I can be. I thoroughly enjoyed his performance. I have a personal criteria for actors. If they can manage to not be upstaged by, say, a crazy wig or a crazy outfit, then that shows how strong a performer they really are, which he is. And even though he was cranky, I still think his charm still manages to come through. So, you know, bravo.
John, why don't you lead us off on the last Doctor of the classic era, Sylvester McCoy, Doctor number 7. Now, his Doctor goes on much more of a journey than any of the others, I would argue. You know, he starts off very clownish and then ends very mysterious. Are you a fan of Sylvester McCoy's portrayal?
Absolutely, but I will admit that I'm a little colored just because I've gotten to see him in person, and he's just a darling. So both, yes, great performances as well as a really, you know, fun guy.
Karen?
I thought he was a little devious. He was a little weird. But overall, as a actor, he did a pretty good job portraying the Doctor. Wasn't one of my favorites, but he was kind of there.
Diplomatically damning with faint praise. That is Karen Glover on Doctor number 7, Julie O'Malley on Doctor number 7.
I really enjoyed Sylvester's character arc, because he did start out as quirky and kind of comical, and then he went dark very suddenly. And as an actor, he proved that he had that kind of breadth of performance. And as a person, he is just the sweetest, kindest, most wonderful person, and I love him to death. He's not my favorite Doctor, but I think he's in my top 3.
Yeah, I can echo what you've been saying about a nice guy. He was recently a guest on my podcast, Who's the Best? And yeah, he is interesting because he's a fan of all of Doctor Who. And when I asked him his favorite Doctor Who monster, he picked Cassandra from the modern era rather than one of his own creatures, which I thought was fascinating. River, Sylvester McCoy.
Love him. I think he's funny. He's talented. Has a great range to him. And I was just watching an episode the other day where he was in a fight with the Master, and it was just so brilliant. And yeah, I love Sylvester McCoy, and he owes me a drink.
Well, he does for this, yeah. No, I mean, I know what you mean about range, because he came with a whole set of skills. He was a performance artist. He was famously sticking ferrets up his trousers, was one of his earliest jobs on television.
Why couldn't they have put that in an episode?
I know, exactly. Never mind playing the spoons. We wanted the ferrets up there. Kristi, bring us home on Doctor number 7. What do you think?
He played it as a mischievous, intelligent doctor, and he was just a lot of fun. And I liked him pairing off with Kay Ace and her baseball bat, not a cricket bat. But yeah, it was a fun pairing, and he just loved playing the Doctor, and it came across in his performance.
Certainly, interesting. So now the shortest-lived Doctor was Paul McGann, who played the Time Lord in the 1996 TV movie, which was a pilot for a series that never happened, as we know, of course, although he has continued to play the Doctor on Big Finish, so he's been able to add more colours to his performance. River, what did you think of Paul McGann as the Doctor?
On screen, I liked him. I wasn't crazy about the wig. I found it interesting that without the wig, he looks an awful lot like Christopher Eccleston. But when he got to do the audio dramas, my God, he's a brilliant Doctor. And he's fun, and he knows things, and he's wonderful in Night of the Doctor, which is his only other screen appearance.
Julie, Paul McGann.
I don't think that we had him long enough to really be able to understand what a talent he is. I think he got shortchanged because I wanted to see more of him. I really, really did. I wanted to see how he would develop the character over time, and he never got the chance. I really like him.
John, you're nodding.
Considering the major up battle he faced in trying to bring the series back, it was a standalone movie. Everyone was new. I thought he turned in a beautiful, intelligent, sensitive performance, and also he's an amazing human being.
Karen, do you hate Paul McGann as well?
No, actually. Okay, so I started my whole Doctor Who career, or my whole fandom into the newer series. So when I found out that there was a movie, I had to watch it.
Yeah.
And then I found out this was the 8th Doctor that only had a movie. He didn't get a series. And when I watched it, and he was like, and they were in the ambulance, and they're like, oh, he has 2 hearts. I was like, oh, it's the Doctor. And he was charming. He was romantic. He was fun. And I agree. I think that we didn't get enough of him, and he should have had at least a 2-3 run series for him, because I would have personally liked to see more of him.
Great point, Karen, and interesting to get your perspective, because the rest of us are sort of lifers, whereas you came sort of recently to Doctor Who and have gone back and sort of watched it all since. Kristi, what do you think of Paul McGann's all too brief performance as the Doctor?
I thought it was a very brief but wonderful performance. He was a little bit too lovey-dovey with Dr. Grace Holloway, and Eric Roberts did a pretty good job as a master, but he did get a lot of criticism for it. But his audios are very good, and I'm glad he's given a chance. In Night of the Doctor, when he comes in and he says, "I'm not the Doctor you expected," it was fun. It was a really fun little short piece. If you haven't watched it, it's on YouTube, and you can actually see him glimpse into his future generation as the War Doctor.
Yes, you are watching Who's the Best Doctor Who, presented by SD WhoCon, which is still set for San Diego on October 9th to the 11th. At the time of recording, we don't know what's going to happen, whether it's going to be live or virtual event, but please check on with the website for SD WhoCon. We'd love to see you all there. We'll be there as well, continuing this debate. So Doctor Who returned under Russell T Davies with Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor, one of Britain's most respected dramatic actors. John, his was only 1 season, but it left quite a launch pad for new Doctor Who, didn't it?
Absolutely. He successfully transitioned from that one standalone movie to what they call the new series. And it's rare you see an actor who can take their anger and make it so, personal and connectable. I thought he did an amazing job in a short time, and another amazing human being.
River.
Love Christopher Eccleston. If it wasn't for Christopher Eccleston, we wouldn't have gotten to Jodie Whittaker.
Julie.
I agree. I totally agree. I feel that his anger turned into a much deeper emotion and added so many more layers to the Doctor's character and the Doctor's backstory, and was the perfect launch pad for the new series. And he really, really set the standard from the get-go.
Karen, are you going to add to the love fest?
He was fantastic.
It's fantastic.
I absolutely adore him. Yes. Well, he wasn't the first Doctor that I watched. Actually, I watched one episode, and I think it was in Tennant's era, and I had to go and watch Eccleston to find out what this whole Doctor Who thing was. And the first episode, that first thing, that smile, that I was like, oh my God, he's awesome. And so he's the one that really got me going into the series. And I was sad that he only got to do the one series, because he would have been another one of those Doctors that could have had 2-3 more seasons, and it would have been fantastic.
Kristi, were you equally hooked by Christopher Eccleston?
He was fantastic. The second he says, "Hello, Rose, I'm the Doctor. Now run for your life," I was, hey, our Doctor's back. And I was, running ever since.
Well, he left a huge impression, but so did David Tennant. Now, doesn't matter what I think, but I'm moderating, so I'll say he was my favorite Doctor. And what I liked about him was, of course, the Doctor has 2 hearts, and to me, that would make him seem that he would love twice as much. And I loved the emotion that he brought to the part. Karen, you said that the Tennant was your jumping on point for the whole of Doctor Who. What do you think about David Tennant, his performance and his legacy?
Well, I definitely liked his style. I was like, he's wearing like this long coat. He's got these Converse on, he's got this tie going. And I'm just like, who is this guy? What is he about? And watching him and how he was with Rose, and how he was, you could see the emotion behind him, the love, the compassion, and how he really loved humans. And it hooked me. Like, that was it. I was sold.
Love David Tennant as an actor, the humongous career. He was very believable as an alien, as one that you can relate to. And it's funny because kind of starting with Paul McGann, you're in this new series of kind of slightly sexier Doctors, which he is that as well.
Julie.
David Tennant, he broke my heart. He really did. He was the tragic Doctor to me. He had all of this experience and all of this emotion over thousands of years or hundreds of years, and he carried it on his sleeve. And the dynamic between him and Donna was so funny and so angering, and that was so much fun to watch. But yeah, he's a good Doctor. I loved him very much.
Kristi.
He loved playing the Doctor, and you can see that. And I really liked him acting with Jackie Tyler, and him and Donna. I don't know, skip Rose. Rose was a little bit too mushy over him. But then all of us, I think, got a little too mushy over him because we all.
Oh, you old romantic, Kristi. River, David Tennant.
Death of me. I like David Tennant. I mean, he did try to run back, and he did save me. So yes, I think he's a great actor.
And next, it was big shoes to fill, and those shoes were filled by Matt Smith. River.
Love him so much. I like Matt Smith. He's really alien. He's really strange. He's an old man in a young man's body and having a great time.
Julie.
Matt Smith is my favorite Doctor. I think the way he portrayed the Doctor encompasses everything that the Doctor is and everything that the Doctor can be. And he really showed a great deal of heart and compassion and a great deal of zany fun all at the same time. And the dynamic between him and Amy and Rory, that broke my heart. It just broke my heart.
John, one sentence, sum up Matt Smith.
full-fledged range. Just he encompassed everything.
Same question for you, Karen.
Well, he wasn't my favorite at first. He took a little bit to grow on me, but he has so much personality, and he became the Doctor.
Kristi.
Fully dedicated, whether it was wearing a bow tie or a fez, he loved the job.
Okay, let's go on to Peter Capaldi, Doctor number 12. Julie, I see you smiling.
I like Peter. I really did. The beginning of his run as the Doctor felt a little awkward because I feel like the episodes were originally written for Matt, and so they had to modify them for Peter. But the moment they gave him a guitar, that was it. It was his. He was Doctor.
River.
Once they let his hair grow out and he could play, he was having the time of his life, and I loved him.
John.
He really conveyed his emotion convincingly, and I could listen to that voice forever.
Karen.
He is ultimately my Doctor. He will forever be my Doctor.
Wow.
I love him.
Oh, wow. What a ringing endorsement. Kristi.
The one I was looking forward to most portraying him, but most disappointed with, because for some reason I just never could grasp him as a real Doctor.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. So before we give you the result, we have to talk about the current incumbent, the 13th Doctor, Jodie Whittaker. Such a wonderful moment when we first got the news that we were at last going to have a female Doctor. In one sentence, all of you sum up the impact of Jodie Whittaker, good or bad. River.
Bad. She doesn't care like the other Doctors did.
John.
She was given short shrift. She needs to be able to show more anger, but they didn't give her the scripts.
Karen.
I like her, but her stories just stink.
Wow. Julie.
I like her as well, but I think she is misunderstood and poorly written.
Kristi.
They need to do away with her saying everybody's her family and everybody into the TARDIS.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So just feel the hate. That is our opinion of the 13 Doctors, but we have been asking fans all over the world. We started the survey at our own San Diego Comic-Con live panel 1 year ago. We continued it at SD WhoCon, and ever since then, the listeners of Who's the Best Podcast have been voting. I can now announce at the end of the show the results for the public vote for Who's the Best Doctor Who. I'm not going to list all 13 to spare any embarrassment, but I will list the top 4 in reverse order. You ready for the results, everybody?
Yes.
Here they come. In 4th place, Matt Smith. In 3rd place for Who's the Best Doctor, Tom Baker. In 2nd place for Who's the Best Doctor Who, Jodie Whittaker. Well, I guess the public loves her a lot more than our panelists do. And so, who's the best? I'm about to tell you. According to the public vote, the best Doctor is David Tennant. Yes, Tennant gets it. You can hear his reaction on Who's the Best. Go to who'sthebest.fm to hear what he says about that. But talking of the best, what a fantastic panel. River, John, Karen, Julie, and Kristi, it's been great to share this Comic-Con at home experience with you. And for all of you out there, you know, in the words of the Doctor, you know, always be kind, never cruel, you know, or cowardly. And we love Doctor Who. We sometimes come to hate what we love, as you've heard with these divided opinions. But, you know, it's been a wonderful adventure through space and time. Long may it continue to do so. Sorry we didn't have time to get to the War Doctor and Joe Martin's Doctor and all the other incarnations. But that's what we thought of the main 13. Tennant wins. It's goodbye from us. Stay safe and lots of love from the Doctor Who family.
Thank you, Sandro.
Bye.
Bye-bye.